Great morning, world. Great morning, humans. This is your boy, if you choose to have me, Dr. JC Doornick, aka the Dragon. And this is another episode of the Make Sense with Dr. JC Dornick podcast, focusing on what we call Make Sense Mondays. Today, we are going to make sense of the unknown, which really is a funny thing to say, isn't it? We're going to make sense of the unknown. That's like me saying we're going to make sense of the unsensible. But you'll appreciate what it's about then. So great morning, everyone. So glad to be here with you. As you know, Make Sense Mondays is something I do every week on Mondays at 8 a.m. And I do it for the public. It's a live show that gets cleaned up, but the live show is what you'd be watching as it streams to all of the social media channels and things like that. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, but it's also being recorded for the Make Sense podcast. And that will be a shorter version, cleaned up, get rid of all the potential screw ups that you might experience. But the purpose of the Make Sense Mondays episodes are just to give you a little bit of a better chance at being conscious today. You know, the idea of winning the morning and winning the day is the premise that I've been following for almost 18 years now. We have the opportunity every day to express our greatness, you know, to have a better go at life. But what it requires is that you claim control as the dominant force and the shot caller and the reality bender of your life. So that's the purpose of these discussions in the morning, is we take some things that make you go, and we have an interesting discussion and you say, if you're open and curious. And what that does is it helps you tap into that potentially 5% of your conscious mind. And while you're with me on Monday mornings, and if you're in the Make Sense Academy, our private community, and you're all welcome to come check that out. I see some of our members joining right now. That's something that we do every morning. So in the Make Sense Academy and the newly launched Make Sense Business Academy, all for a very, very low cost, you know, get your mentorship, get your coaching, and all of the tools and resources that I have ever created and ever will. That's in the Make Sense Academy. Just comment Make Sense Academy and I'll give you access to that. And what we do in there is we have a mastermind every single morning in a live interactive forum. We have discussions like this, but we also interact with them. And what happens is that that's one of the ways that you can take control of your day, is give yourself the opportunity to think about things, challenge things. Today, we're making sense of the unknown. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have the opportunity today. It's just an opportunity, take it or leave it. I always give you some things and I say, hey, chew on that. You can always spit it out. But you're always going to have the opportunity to look at things from all vantage points, from far away, from nearby, take a look around things. We talk a lot about that stuff. And what you might find is that a couple things, maybe even everything that you thought were guarantees and what we call the known, we're going to talk about that, might not be the case, right? There might be a better way. You know, there might be ways of looking at things differently, and then seeing the things in your life look different. So if you change the way you look at things, things look at change. And it's who you are that determines how well what you do works. So I want to welcome everybody, give a quick shout out to some of our sponsors. And one of them is obviously the Make Sense Academy. That's our private community that is just completely laying down the foundation to drop new cable and wiring in your brain, rewire your brain, become the dominant force of your life. Starting off with recognizing the idea that for the most part, everything that you claim that you know has been taught to you from the outside in, from your life experience, from your mother, father, teacher, preacher, and all of that stuff, thus validating the reason why you might want to put your knee-jerk perception and reactions and your interface response system on pause, and therefore step into a space where you say, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. Let's take a look at things and I'll think about them and then make a better decision about what goes, what stays, who gets into your nightclub, who doesn't. All of a sudden, everything that you ever wanted starts to fall into place. So that's what the Make Sense Academy is, and you're all welcome there. And we're also sponsored by what we call the Sati Experience, satiexperience.com. And that is the new relationship and rejuvenation and renewal retreats that my beautiful wife, Chicken, aka Mika, are running in Costa Rica. Our first one sold out, and our next one is set for Valentine's Day. We only take 6 couples, but this is an amazing, just beautiful experience for couples that primarily are married couples that want to just go to the next level. This is not for couples that are struggling. These are for couples that want more, and they want to, renew and rejuvenate. So we're actually going to have these beautiful renewal and redoing of your vows and stuff like that in paradise. So it's like the greatest vacation ever with your partner. At the same time, you start to strengthen this bond that you call love. And then also, I just give a shout out to one of our affiliates, and that is Jim Quick at Quick Learning. For those of you that have never taken his speed reading courses or his memory retention courses, I mean, they will completely blow your mind. And, nobody's ever taught you how to learn. If you think about that, you've learned, but nobody's ever taught you how to learn. And my great friend Jim Quick has these amazing courses, and we have the ability to get them for you at the cheapest price. So if you're interested in anything like that, just in the comments, just say quick, KWIK, and I'll send you a link where you can get access to great prices on those things. Changed me and my family's whole life. So great morning. Want to say hi to some of our Make Sense Academy folks before we start. So great morning, Kathy. Great morning to you, Susie. I just called Susan Susie. Well, there you go. Monica says quick. Get it to me quick. I will send that to you, Monica. Great morning, Monica. Great morning, Chris. Good talking to you in the morning. Great morning, Debbie. And if I forgot, great morning, Vicky. So great morning to everybody. And we say great morning because why would we just say good when we can say great? So let's make sense of the unknown. This is going to be a fun one. And just allow yourself to just step into a space right now where you don't have to be right. Allow yourself to just become open and curious to what might be. And then I'll also invite you when I'm finished to completely disregard everything that I said if it doesn't resonate with you at this time. Timing is everything. So it's an interesting question to ask. So this is where this began. Interesting question to ask is this: does the universe know about itself? Does the universe, whatever you think that is the universe aware of itself? Or is it only the human perception of the universe that brings it into existence? I don't know why that was fascinating to me, but I'm very, very interested, and I've been studying for almost 20 years, just consciousness and, reality. And I'm just fascinated with all aspects of what else is out there. So consciousness is a really interesting thing that human beings have. We're having this conscious conversation right now. And you are able to know that you exist. I wonder if a cat knows that they exist, right? Sometimes you look at an animal looking in a mirror and there's different levels of consciousness. And then we have things like panpsychism out there that, indicates that everything has consciousness, plants as well, But does the universe know about itself, or does the universe or some things like that only exist because we perceive them? So this is a fascinating idea that made me go, hmm. And what's interesting about the word hmm? If you spell it, and you might want to write that down because this is a really cool thing. This comes from my book, HMMM, 3 M's. And the reason why I always encourage people to use 3 M's when you write is you'll notice that it'll trigger a fun little emoji of a guy with a thought face. Try it. But what HMMM stands for, when you go, it means that you're undecided. It means that you heard something, but you're not sure about it yet. And you're going to think about it first. So that's called cognitive distancing. But the 3 M's and the H, it stands for haven't made up my mind yet. Isn't that interesting? And that's the way I like to live my life, is try to not make up my mind about anything yet because there's so many more things, right? The moment that I think that something has fallen into what I call the known, I realize that the unknown is still there. And where does growth take place? In the unknown, outside the comfort zone. So if you ever feel comfortable with thinking that you know things, well, you stopped growing. So this gives rise to a fascinating observation in my mind, of all things, including humans and human behavior. This thought I had about the universe, specifically in the realm of the known versus the unknown. Now, just think about that. Think about what that means to have something that sits in the realm of what you call the known, and then something that sits in the realm of the unknown and how that affects your life. Very interesting, right? So, understanding this is a crucial, crucial thing. And we teach this in the Make Sense Academy, but there's a lot of power in understanding the entanglement, the obvious entanglement, the yin and the yang of the two. That's a crucial skill in the development of your interface response system. And what do I mean by that is as soon as you think that you know something, in that moment, you forgot about the omnipresent unknown that's affiliated with it. I asked my daughter this morning, I asked her a question, and she probably hates these questions early in the morning, but I said to her, I said, "Can the known exist without the unknown?" And she immediately said, "Of course," right? And I said, "Explain that to me." And she goes, "Uh-oh." Right? So I said, remember something. The only reason that you have something that you call the known is because one day it was unknown and then it came into the known. So they're omnipresent, right? There's always two sides of things. But first, right, what we have to do first is let's look at the known. What does that mean? So the known is a very, very important thing for you to identify because you all have different ways of coming to that conclusion. So it represents the space where you think that you know what is and what isn't, right? What's interesting about the known is you think that's a place where you think you know something, but it's also the place that you claim to know what the unknown is. Isn't that interesting? So a lot of stuff going on there. Here's the way I like to describe the known. If you do something today and it triggers the expected response, meaning you did something with the intention of an expected response, that represents the known. The reason why is because it indicates to you, if you think about it, that you know what you're doing. Think about what it means to feel like you know what you're doing. That's a double-edged sword because have you ever thought you knew what you were doing and then it didn't work out? What do you do then? Right? We'll talk about that. So it indicates that you know what you're doing. So if you do something and get an unexpected or undesired, I don't know if anybody here has ever tried to create an outcome and got a different outcome than they wanted. But if you do something and you get an unexpected or undesired response that triggers feelings of things like confusion, embarrassment, frustration, or anger, due to the uncertainty of why things didn't unfold as you expected, think about how that feels. When you do something with an expectation, this is why a lot of people say detach from the outcome, focus more on the income, right? If you know that something has time-tested results attached to it, you do something with consistency and it's going to leverage something. Don't get so attached to the attachment because you might all of a sudden think that if your expected outcome doesn't come into play, that you're doing something wrong. That's why we say that. So if you were asked why you did not get the expected result. So let's say you did something and didn't get the expected result. And you asked yourself or somebody asked you, hey, why didn't you get that expected result? Think about what you would do in that, how you would feel and what you would do. So you may actually protect your ego. You may, of course, protect your ego with some sort of excuse. Remember what an excuse is something that excuses you from responsibility of many, many colors. So you might protect your ego with an excuse, but in reality, the truth is that if you did something and expected a result that didn't come into play or you were surprised by it, the truth is that you don't know. You don't know. So is that in the known? Well, you could say that I know that I don't know. which is another example of the omnipresence of the two. But that's what you would say. I don't know. So let's refer to that place where you go, I don't know, right? It'd be wise to say, I don't know yet, or I don't know at this time. But when you say, I don't know, let's call that the unknown. Things that make you say, I don't know. We'll call that, just for this talk, the unknown. So naturally, if someone asks you a question about a person, place, fact or thing, and you don't know, right? This is another example of the unknown, right? So I'm not talking, it's not always about trying to do something and getting an unexpected or undesirable outcome. Sometimes people will just present you with a question and you'll go into your own human GPT and Google and say, I don't know. Sometimes we also say, I don't care to know, right? I wear these shirts that say breaking news, I don't care. That means I don't care to know about things that I don't care about. I only care about things that I care about. So that's another example of the unknown. So here's what's interesting about the known and the unknown. Try to grasp this. It was a little heavy at first, but it's true. I think. Right? Look at that. Isn't it funny when you say it's true? That's an indication of somebody that says that they know something, right? So I will say it's, as far as I know at this time, my feelings are leaning more towards the side of it being true, but I'm open and curious to anything that would indicate otherwise because I want to grow. So this is an interesting observation. There's always a 50-50 split between the known and the unknown. And what I mean by that is they're equally there at all times. That's what it means. An equal amount of known and unknown are always at play at all times. So there's always a blind spot to our spot of vision. So if you think you see something, there's always a blind spot as well. So what's interesting about that is that reminds you that you might not really know what you're seeing because you know that there's aspects of it from your vantage point until you move into that place where the blind spot disappears, but there's always another blind spot. So it's interesting to think about the fact that every time you're observing and perceiving something, there's a blind spot. And sometimes that blind spot is created by, guess what? Your perspective. Your perspective is jaded because your perspective is one that you've acquired from your life experience, from your mother, father, teacher, preacher, as well as evolution. We are all this amazing human race, but we have evolved with blind spots. How do I know that? Have you ever met somebody that claims to know something and will not, we call it cognitive bias. They will not even entertain anything else. They have this psychological, spot, that blind spot. So there's always a blind spot to our spot of vision. So some fun examples that bring this into a color, and this is a little bit frustrating, but fun. We can't bite our own mouth. Alan Watts says that. And I can't take the tip of my right finger here, this pointer, this finger. I can't take the tip of my finger and touch the right point of my finger. So there's this interesting space there where there's a lot of weird stuff going on, automatically in my body. Like I can't sit here and focus and make my heart beat. So a lot of things that are happening that rest in that unknown, right? I mean, we can go over the science and stuff, but we've made that up too. So we can't bite our own mouth. We can't point at our own finger. But what about everything else? Does that make everything else non-existent? I love A Case Against Reality. Donald Hoffman always talks about things as if things only come into existence when we see them. They get rendered just like a video game renders as you turn and see different parts of the scenery. But he says that when you're not looking at it, technically it doesn't exist. And you can't prove that it exists. You could just claim that it exists. So does anything really, really exist? Or have we just rendered it all and claimed that we know? Now, why would I share this? It's just like an exercise for your brain that helps you. Great morning, Deb. This is an exercise for your brain, and this would only be interesting to you and joining our Make Sense Academy. All of these things, you'll notice that in our Make Sense Academy, we have all these amazing assets and tools coming that help people build their business. Start a podcast, write a book, publish a book, monetize, become a public speaker, build a coaching business, all of that stuff. But the first thing that our members are doing is getting the work done on the who. It's who you are that determines how well what you do works. So these discussions are allowing you to question whether or not you're open to growth. A lot of people don't grow because they're not open to growth. As soon as you give them something and say, do this and you'll succeed, why don't they succeed? It's because of who they are and their rules. So I'm just challenging you in these discussions to just go, and maybe flex the word maybe. What a powerful word maybe is. So does that mean everything is non-existence? This perhaps is a valuable insight in the work that we're doing in what we call the interface response system. The interface response system, which is a 4-step system that I was sharing before, is being aware of everything that's going on and how your brain works and how it's been programmed, thus validating the reason to pause, stepping into this conscious, logical, rational place that's unpersuaded by anything that you know, and just taking a look at things, assessing, and then making your decision appropriately after. Very difficult to do. That's why we created a system, and we teach that in the school as well. So this is valuable stuff for my interface response system, to accept and acknowledge that in order for me to have any feelings of certainty about the known, I also have to simultaneously, this is why it's important to be open and curious. I have to simultaneously acknowledge the equal existence of the unknown. Now, an easier way of saying that, we're very, very much into the whole obstacle is the way, embrace the suck, right? We know that we have to fail in order to succeed. And we know that success comes as a result of getting better at something. And you don't get better at something until you've gone out and screwed it up. So that's something that we're getting comfortable with. But the idea of the known and the unknown existing simultaneously, perhaps helping me accept that the unknown and is equally there. It's an equal necessity. In fact, can there be a known without the unknown? That was the question I asked my daughter. Think of something that the human race universally considers to be known. You can, great morning, Lori, great morning, Rhoda. If you have an idea of something that the human race just universally considers to be known, put it in the chat. I'd love to see what some of your operating systems produce. What is something that the human race universally claims to be something that is known? We can pause a little bit if you want to interact and put something there. What does the human race universally assume is something that is in the known? The sky is blue, says Lindsay Franklin. Great morning, Lindsay. Lindsay was just kind of hiding there until she had something to say. What's up, my friend? Okay, the sky is blue, right? Now, are you sure, right? That's like me saying the wall behind me is blue. The earth is round. Good one, Monica. I was actually going to bring that one up. So these are things that we are universally claiming to be the known, right? But they were unknown before they were known. Right. And then we came up with this idea that this is blue, right? I mean, who's to say blue is blue? We made that up. This color behind me on my wall, we call it blue. But what if somebody from another planet comes by and says, that's not blue, that's red, right? We would have to say, oops, puppies poop. That's right. We have a puppy. And that is something at this time I'm pretty certain of, that they poop. So that's what I just want to say is, like, the only reason that we know things like the earth is round is because there was a time where we didn't know it. And during that time that we thought about something and we said, that's the unknown, for whatever reason, we said, hey, let's try to figure it out and bring it into the known. But didn't we forget that we might not have been right? There might be more unknown. And there's still people out there that claim that the earth is not round. A lot of theories about that. It's really interesting. So it caused us to take interest in it. Like we said, hey, we better figure out what shape this earth is, right? I heard something the other day about the earth, which is really, really cool. It's a theory and it's just a theory. You could look it up. It's actually there. I forget what it's called. It's called like the big impact theory or something, that the reason why the earth has seasons. Like we have summer, winter, and fall and spring and all of that stuff. We didn't used to have seasons because we used to be rotating on a certain axis. But there's a theory that we were hit by this massive meteor at one time. It knocked us off our axis, which changed our axis, and it gave us seasons. So it was like a good thing, right? And the theory goes on to say that that meteor separated from the Earth, but got gravitationally attached to it. And that's what you guys call the moon. Look it up. It's an interesting theory, which I say, about. So let it be known that the known cannot exist without the unknown, as everything that is known today was once unknown, and we don't know if the known is 100% sure. And that's a wonderful place to live from from a conscious curiosity, right? An open and conscious curiosity to be open to learning more, like a scientist would. Remember, scientists don't care about being right. They just care about learning what is right. So they're open. So the unknown, this is really cool. The unknown is a name given to the knowledge and experience that are yet to be gained. So I want to talk about a different version of the unknown here, but let me read that again. The unknown, which is a name we made up, right? There's the known and then the unknown, meaning the not known. The unknown is just a name that's been given to the knowledge and experiences that are yet to be gained. And I think the biggest challenge is that as a human race, we think when we've gained knowledge that it's become something solidly known as the known. But what we find is that things that we've always thought, we're right, are constantly being disproven. So this definitely strikes my curiosity. So to tap in and look into the unknown and recognize it as equally valuable and exciting as the known. That's what I'm fascinated with. It is, after all, the growth and discovery place, right? The unknown. So I'm more fascinated with the unknown than the known. If I go through my day and everything falls into place in the realm of the unknown and nothing strange happens that surprises me, that's typically an indication that I'm not in a growth process. So I'm very fascinated with the unknown. Growth and discovery cannot take place in the known, can it? Can you stay in the comfort known and grow? Or do you have to, just like you build a muscle, push the extremities of what that bubble that you call the known is? If you just stay in your bed, you won't grow. You have to push the walls. You have to go out to the wall and just at least start poking it. However, as an open and curious person, I am now realizing that my definition of the unknown has often been skewed. And I want to open this up to you and invite you to challenge yourself and say, have I assumed things that were just not true? I love to allow myself to say maybe, I haven't made my mind up about anything. So I realized that I look at the unknown as a part of my reality in life that represented that blind spot and often a threat to my known. Isn't that interesting about the unknown? It's threatening. That's why we want to bring things into the known. That's a human behavior. And sometimes if you say something that's contradictory to what I claim is the known, that's a threat to me. And I'll try to probably at all costs avoid you. So if I made a declaration of something that was in the known, like say I said something was truth or fact, like I did before about something, and someone else asked me a question or postulated something that challenged the validity of what I said was the truth or fact, what I claim to be the known, which is just a bunch of words that I placed an exclamation point behind. Look at the visual of something that you say is fact, true, or known, like the blue sky. And just observe the sentence if you wrote it out and understand that the punctuation would be an exclamation point saying, this is this, rather than a question mark indicating that you're open. Now, this goes deep when you start talking about religion and stuff, right? So it's just a bunch of words that you put an exclamation point behind. So I would not look at the spaces of the unknown if I really needed to be right about my known. If I'm grasping onto my known, the unknown scares me. So I would most likely look at it as just being wrong. Do you find yourself every now and then calling the unknown, mistakenly calling it wrong. Opposition, wrong. Once I became open and curious as a human and started to allow myself to challenge everything by saying, haven't made up my mind, which, by the way, is a power move for you today, just to give yourself the opportunity. Why wouldn't you give yourself the opportunity to think about something? I began seeing the value of taking things that I considered to be wrong. What do you consider to be wrong? God, there's a big list. If I considered something to be wrong and I changed it, is it's not really wrong. Maybe it's just something that I don't know. Maybe there's that word again. So it could be as simple as me stating that something is true, then having someone say, is that a fact? Is that right? It's a question. Is that right? And progressively recognizing that at the true core of things, if you really, really assess this whole idea of true and fact, right? You'll see that we've pretty much made everything up as humans. And we had to do that because we had to make sense of an unsensible world, right? So rather than doing that, what's wrong with just using these three powerful words every now and then? Even if you think you know, saying, I don't know, I'm not sure. We have this desire to be sure. It has to do with natural selection and the alpha, only the strong survives. But it's a powerful move to say, I'm not sure. But at this time, here's what I think. The theory. Why would you do that? Because you want to grow. Remember, as soon as you think you know something, there's value in it. But as soon as you think you know something, you're not growing there. Always be open and curious to something else. Do you have the ability to do that with your religious beliefs? Or do you find yourself tethered to them for fear that they're not right? And if somebody challenges your religious beliefs, what do you think about them? Right. So what use can I make of this insight and observation? So perhaps today it's just simply to accept and value the unknown as something that's omnipresent, and it's just a place where we can get excited and know about unexpected things. I like to look at the known rather than I like to look at the unknown not as something that I don't know. I like to look at it as the not yet known. Isn't that fun? I get excited about coming across something that I don't know because I realize that it's just something that I don't yet know. But I also know that it's sometimes a kiss of death to claim that I know it. So I also have to practice this idea. As soon as I think I know something, right? I have to say, but there's also the unknown. So the unknown is the fertile ground for the known. Isn't that fun? So if you want to grow more known and knowledge, right? Where do you have to play? You have to play in the fertile soil called the unknown or the not yet known. So take something like your version of, of your story of how humans came into place. Everybody's got their theories and they're attached to religion. Or what defines reality versus fantasy? Are you open to the idea that this whole thing that we're living in is a simulation? Or are you hell bent on saying no, no, no? Do you know that the smartest people in the world, when they're asked, what are the odds that this is a simulation? They say there's a 1% chance that it's not. And these are the guys that do the actual calculations and work. But meanwhile, you ask somebody this, no, it's preposterous. All that you're hearing when you hear someone say, I know, and everything else is not the unknown, and everything else is wrong. That's somebody just protecting from a place of fear their house of cards. Because if their house of cards falls down, they might have an identity crisis. I get it. I don't want to push their buttons. Make a list today of everything, all of the things that you claim are known and unknowns, right? And consider how many of those things you are looking at as wrongs and impossibilities. That's the power of what I was hoping to share with you today is how many things are impossible? How many things are just wrong? And do you have the ability to consciously say, the only reason I'm calling that wrong or impossible is because it's opposite of what I think is right. And also, I can't do it. And the people that I know can't do it. So I call it impossible. So it's hard to discover new frontiers of growth, right? In that place where you're saying things are wrong or impossible. So once again, you want to grow, you have to become open and curious. And sometimes people think that they're growing in the known because of certainty. I'm certain I'm going in this way. I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to, but at the same time, they're not open to anything other than what they consider to be the known. Is that true growth? I don't know, right? Where I stand right now is I don't see the growth in that, claiming that you are right and everybody's wrong. So if you're open and curious about this stuff and see life as an opportunity to explore, right? Well, you probably want to join our community, or just simply for free join me and just say, and allow yourself to not make your mind up about it. That's where your growth will take place today, is to not feel compelled to be right and make your mind up about something. I haven't made up my mind about anything. That's the progression of my enlightenment and my self-actualization. I haven't made up my mind. I had somebody the other day that just out of nowhere was angry at me. I didn't do anything or whatever, but they just associated me with something that they were angry with. And naturally, my knee-jerk reaction, my interface response system was to be angry back and feel like a victim of it and stuff. But I allowed myself to not make my mind up about that idea. And that's a wonderful thing to do. I haven't made up my mind up about anything yet. And have fun if you're doing this. It's really a game, right? You, this world existed for millions of years before you, and it'll exist millions of years after you. You're just here in this little speck of time. Have a good time. Have a good time. Don't worry so much about that footprint and legacy, because I understand that it's important. I have that desire too, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. It's nothing. So just have fun. Have fun from an open and curious space, living your life with the goal and desire to discover as much of the not yet known as you can. Also, at the same time, recognizing that this never stops, does it? Because as soon as you discover something, and it might be today, and it might be during this conversation, as soon as you discover something in the not yet known, and then therefore claim that it is now in the known, guess what comes up with that at the same time? Yep. Makes sense. Love and appreciate you all. So remember, if you want that information on Jim Quick's course, just write quick. I'll get that to you, Monica. You want to check out our Make Sense Academy, risk-free for a month. It's $48. It's like getting personal growth and self-development and business coaching for $48 and collaborating with everybody. So it's a great situation because we do it in a group format. Just write Make Sense, send that out to me. Check out the satiexperience.com if you want to take your love to the next level. And if you learned something today, I just encourage you to give it away, because that's how it's going to stay. That's the name of the game. So let's just go out and play. I could just keep rhyming with that. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. Make Sense Academy, folks. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye now.